So you did white cross for all of your solves, which is totally fine, but I believe it's actually important to learn color neutrality as soon as possible because it makes it easier to get used to, and it will definitely improve your cross making skills because you'll always be able to find an easy cross on one of the sides. So you scramble with yellow on top and green in front, which is fine. Normally you would have white on top, but I can see that you probably did that just so you could have white on the bottom when you're done scrambling. So you solved your cross like this. The first three edge crosses made on this solve were pretty alright. You did do a little bit of unnecessary moves and a couple of rotations, but then this last one you took a second to recognize and you had to take it out and flip it over. Now it's important to look through your cross and make sure you don't have any flipped ones by the end because those are really hard to fix and they waste a little bit of time, so that's a little thing to think about. Most crosses should be pretty easily solvable within 8 moves or so, so that's an important thing to take note of and to make sure you can improve on your cross efficiency. So onto F2L, you had a little hesitation at the start, but you immediately went for this front pair and did it like this. That's the normal algorithm for it, so that's fine. Next, you did a rotation. You saw this here, right here, so you took it out and solved it. And what you did is you accidentally left this cross piece up here, which is a little awkward, but that's fine. It does affect your look ahead though. You could have actually solved this one in the back right here first, without, and also creating an easier solution for this one. That's alright. This is where your F2L went a little bit off the rails, because what you did next is you did this pair, and in doing so, you took out this back F2L pair you already made, and instead of inserting it into the back and then solving the new one, instead you inserted this one, and therefore you broke the previous. And that's a little bit of a problem because you don't really want to do that when you're solving, because it's going to make you have to fix it later, giving you extra time on your solve. So now you're going to have to go back and fix that. After this, you did the F2L pair like this. That's pretty good. That's a good solution for that one. And then this last one. And that was your F2L. Those last two are alright, but of course this one right here was one that you already made, broke, and had to redo. So that's something to avoid. So now you just have a soon case, which was pretty simple, like that. But what you did actually was you had to use a regrip. So if you want to have a regripless one, a better way to do it would be using your left hand fingers like this. So for your PLL, you had an E-perm, and there was a lot of hesitation. You were trying to figure out which way was the correct orientation to do it, and then you did a lefty E-perm like this. Like this. And it was a little bit of a wishy-washy execution, but E-perms are pretty difficult, so just work on that, and I'm sure you'll be able to do it better later on. So for the cross, you solved it like this. That was a pretty interesting solution. You even used a U wide move, and if that's how you practice it, I'm sure it's no big deal, but I'm thinking that if you use a U wide move, it kind of affects your ability to look ahead. It moves certain edge pieces that are maybe in here that might be important to look at during F2L. It's going to move them away from where you would expect it to be, so just a little thought, but if you like solving it that way, then that's not a huge deal. There's a slightly more efficient cross solution that I saw here, which went like this. it shaves 2 moves off the cross solution that you had, and it didn't have any U wide moves. So your first F2L was up here right in front, so that's nice. You solved it like this. Really nice, since it was your first one, you didn't have to worry one in the back, so that was a very nice F2L pair. Next one you did was also right here. You did, that's a new algorithm I haven't seen before. It looked pretty nice, but there was a slightly simpler one you could have done. From this position, you could have started and done it like this instead. And in doing so, what you're doing is you're actually putting them into an insertable position right here while moving this one out, inserting it, and then reinserting the one to the back. And since it's a bunch of double moves, it's actually not that many moves overall. But instead, you did it like that, and that's alright. A lot of moves, but it's pretty easy to do fast. These last two F2L pairs were fine. You had a few moments of hesitation where you did rotations as well as U moves. And when you're doing that, what you're causing is you're making it harder to determine what your next pair will be, even though you're trying to find it. If you're moving everything at once, you're kind of completely scrambling it up, and where you're going to have to completely find it again. So it's important to think that you want to keep your position, and if necessary, move the top. Orientations aren't necessary, but what you should do is you should be able to watch for pieces. So you see here, oh, these don't match up. This is red, this is orange. But you look around, there's no corner pieces with white on them. So you look in the back and look, oh, this one, orange and white, orange, green, green. So what you can do, insert that one in. That was a little fast. You did your last F12 pairs like this. Both of them were pretty okay solutions. For the OLL, you solved it like this. You did 2-part OLL here, and you also did something that for me is pretty interesting. The cross OLL algorithm that you did is actually what I think of as a COLL, which means it solves all the corners. And I'm not sure if that's just the algorithm that you learned for, and it just happened to be the one that solves the corners for you. But if you are trying to learn COLL right now, I would recommend learning full OLL before that, because COLL is just going to be some extra algorithms that are going to get you confused on specific ones that might mess up your times a little bit. Here's the algorithm for the original OLL case. And it also ends up solving the corner pieces as well. So for the POL, you got a U-perm and you did it like this. That solution is good. The middle move algorithm is pretty nice, but I think it's important that you practice your middle moves, because you seem to struggle a little bit with the M2s, and also on moving this down. That's also important finger trick to learn as well. But other than that, nice easy PLL. Good job. Alright, for the cross, solved it like this. Used another U wide move, which I'm guessing is just a method you learned for solving cross, which is fine. The starting scramble did have a free pair up here in the front, but I couldn't find any great way to keep it. And I also did, when just checking the scramble out, I did find a solution that gave you almost every single free pair, but there wasn't really any way to see it coming in the starting position, so that's fine. On to F2L. You just took this free pair, instantly inserted in right here, so that's perfectly good. Next one you did a little bit of hesitation, immediately saw this guy, took it out, and inserted it into the back like that, which is good. Now, you did a U and another rotation, then you had a long pause, you put it back, and then you solved this guy into the back. These are a lot of easy F2L cases right now, so that's good. Then you did a U3 in finding this last one, took it out, and inserted it in the front. So almost every single one of those F2Ls was good. You did have a little bit of pause before that the last few, and just so you could see right here, you could cancel in like that. But that's a little bit more of an intuitive thing to learn, or rather you need to look ahead a little better to determine that. So I'm not going to fault you for that. I probably wouldn't be able to immediately cancel in either, but when you have the pair here, you could do that. It would get you to the PLL as well. So for the PLL, you did exactly what I just did, same position and everything, so nothing wrong with that. And now you saw you had a T-perm, so you rotated and did a T-perm. Easy as that. That was probably one of the better solves in this average of 5, so good job. Easy F2L, everything was executed pretty well. A little bit of pause, and other than that, nice. So you had a little bit of hesitation at the beginning of the cross, but you did all right execution on the rest of it. You did it like this. There is a cool trick, however, that I found on this scramble that I think would be important to learn and employ in your solves if you want to get faster at F2L. This little trick I'm going to show you is called pseudo-slotting, and where you could have done it was at this point where you move it back and you solve these two. You can see that this corner piece is already here, and when you insert it, we see that it's going to come to this area. So what you wanted to do here is you will have to insert this edge piece in later, but if we undo that move, the last move we did, we can see that back here it is. And since there's no corner piece right here, what we can just do is do 3 moves, insert it into there, move it back, and you have a solved F2L pair. And on top of that, when we do that, we also insert this one correctly, and then this one is here, so with just 6 extra moves, you have 2 F2L pairs already done. And of course, you probably wouldn't be able to immediately see that from the inspection time, but it's an important idea to look at because it really helps improve your speed and effectiveness in F2L. So you started with this pair right here, which you did like this. You got a little confused at the beginning and you tried to insert it flipped wise, but then you immediately fixed it and solved it into the back like that. That's good, but just remember that you could have done a U instead of a U prime and it would have been here to easily insert, so I think that was just a little mistake in the moment, but that's fine. Next pair you did was right here. You did it like this. That was pretty move heavy, but it was an alright execution. You did it really fast. I'm seeing that you have a little bit when you're doing F2L, you're hesitating when finding them, but when you see them, you know exactly what to do and you do it really fast, so that's nice. Another way you could have solved this is, since this front F2L pair is open, you could have done it like this. It's the same amount of moves, so either one is alright, so if that's the way you learned and want to do it, then that's fine. Oops, just did something wrong, but whatever. Ignore that. When solving these F12 pairs, I'm seeing a lot of unnecessary AUFs and U moves when you're looking around for pieces, so I just want to remind you that it's important when doing F2L to not only focus on the piece you're doing, because what I'm seeing is when you're doing these F12 pairs, you know how to solve them as soon as you see them. So when you're solving them, maybe look around and see where other pieces for other F12 pairs might be, and then you'll be able to more easily move straight into them without having to look for them first. Next pair you did was right here, and you solved it like this. And the last one you did it like this. And I'm gonna enunciate again that there is a slightly better one for when you're solving a pair that's flipped like that. You can just solve it like this. And in doing that, you do take this out, but then you immediately reinsert it, and it's still fewer moves than the solution you did. So if you practice that, I'm sure it's a slightly faster alternative. For OLL, you did this. So two-part OLL again. I'll just show you the algorithm for the OLL again. And for PL, you had a nice U-perm, which you did like this. So, nice algorithm. You did struggle a little bit on the M2 moves, so it's important to practice those, make sure you can do them well and consistently so you can use them better for algorithms. I'm still working on it as well, as you can see, but yep. For the cross, you did this. That was an okay solution, but at the end I saw that when you inserted this last pair, there was a chance to save an F12 pair that was made right here. Could have moved it out, solved the cross, and then reinserted it back in. For your first F12, you did this. Pretty nice and simple solution. It was right there for you. Next pair you did like this. And you insert it into the back. Nicely done. Next one you did like this after a little bit of hesitation. Nice. And your last one was right here, so you did it like this. So again, you use that algorithm that I wasn't aware of, and I've already showed you the slightly better execution of it that you can learn, so that's fine. Moving on to OLL, I wanted to make a quick note that this case is special because it's a very simple last layer algorithm that solves it all in one go. And how you can see is that these two are the same and these two are the same. There's a block here, and then this one is opposite of the front. And what you can do here is all you have to do is do an R prime, a Y perm PLL, and then an R, and you solve the whole thing. So that was just a little cool thing I noticed on this last layer. But for OLL, you did this. Nothing wrong with that at all. Very nicely done U2 moves. And for the last one, you just did a good old J-perm. And did it totally fine, but what I did notice is that you actually moved it over to this side and moved the entire puzzle, then did it, and then undid that AUF. So just so you know, with J-perms, when you do a J-perm, these front bars are going to be matching the center, and when you solve the J-perm, there's no AUF. So what you did is you actually had it correctly matched up, but then you undid it, moved over, did it again, and undid it. So just a little thing to think about. It's a good thing to learn with PLLs what orientation gives you no AUF, then so that you can just orient it at the beginning of it, and then you don't have to AUF it twice like you just did. Alright, so after reviewing all your solves, there are a couple of things I believe would help you greatly in improving on your times. So the first one is color neutrality with your cross. With this, you'll be able to create a cross on any side, and along with some practice, and it'll help you find a good cross solution pretty much every single time. The quicker you learn it, the easier it'll be to recognize and be able to successfully implement it with your solves. Next step is also with the cross, and it's being able to do it with one look. And what I mean by that is to be able to solve the cross entirely and correctly within the inspection time in your head, and without having to double back and check to make sure everything is done. And I'll give you an example here really quick. So with white cross, I can see that I can, alright, so what I have here, I'll just do something like this, and that'll solve it just all in one go without pause, and that'll help you be able to just have to not think about the cross after inspection, and it'll help you be able to move on quicker into the F2L steps and prevent you from having any major pauses between cross and F2L. Next thing is to conserve your use of extra U moves and cube rotations during most of the steps, including cross, F2L, and PLL. And when you do this, you're looking for pieces most of the time, and what you're doing is you're actually making it harder to find because you're reorienting the entire puzzle, especially when you do a rotation and a move at the same time. I saw that through most of the time you did a U move and a rotation in the same direction, and that really isn't helping your case much. So getting used to using fewer rotations and less U moves when doing steps in CFOP, it'll help you become more efficient, and it'll help you be able to look ahead better, which is actually the next step following up that is better look ahead. So going along with less rotation and looking ahead, an important thing to think about is you know how to solve an F2L pair once you see what form it's in, what F2L case it is. So when you're doing that, maybe stop thinking about what you're solving and think about what you're going to solve next. And in doing that, you'll be able to find new F2L pieces and pairs which you can make right after, and it'll help you solve F2L faster by a large degree. And the last step is a little self-explanatory, but learning full OLL will help you complete all the algorithms for CFOP, because I could tell you know I'm pretty certain you could know every PLL and all the cross OLLs, but you don't know anything other than the cross OLLs, and what I think is important to learn is to learn all of them. I know there's a lot, but once you get them all, you'll be able to move on to PLL faster, because you'll finish F2L, see exactly what it is, immediately do it, and get right into PLL, and not have to confuse yourself with longer OLL algorithms with multiple steps. And I think that about sums it up. Thank you so much for sending me your videos. I'm extremely sorry for the huge wait it took. A lot of stuff has been going on, and I haven't had a great amount of time to complete it, but here you go. Thank you so much, and I hope it helps you improve.